3, 2, 1. And we should be live. Welcome, everyone. Let's see if the audio is okay. Can you see live attending from Boston? Nice. Perfect. So today we have Samantha Postman, but this is not a Twitter space. This is a YouTube live stream, as you probably have noticed. And Samantha, I'm super happy to have you here. We have been connected since, I don't know, months. We started with Stefan Nutter, I think, in some ways. Today we will talk about networking. This is a very interesting topic for me, but I think for really everyone, not just developers. I need to say something, Samantha, before I let you talk. Usually here I just invite developers and people from the IT world. So you are the exception here, and you are a super great exception, but I'm super happy to have you here because I think that networking is one of the things that we as developer, we lack more. So you will be very useful for us, for me, for everyone else. So welcome, everyone. Let's see. Lit Bell. There we go. Kush, waiting. Kush, we are here. You can say, where are you from? Let's see here, Boston. Also Kush. Samantha, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm really excited to be here with you, Francesco. And I feel so special because usually I do invite coders and, but coders work in a business world. We all have a professional self. And so that's where I'm here to help because I'm on the other side. I'm on the side helping people with hiring developers or what are they looking for and how to work in that industry. So it's kind of see how the two work together. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And it's pretty awesome. Any of you who are here on the live stream with us, let us know where you're from. Say put hashtag live so that we know you're part of the live event. And we want to see where you're from and see what part of the world.
And I already see a lot of compliments. I think we will have many best speaker I ever heard. And now you can also see her, not just her. Hello, Samantha. Excited for this one. Ayush, you know your part. Let's see. I'm from Tanmar. I can't pronounce this, Kush. Sorry. I need to invite you to pronounce this. Maharashtra, India. And now I'm getting a little bit nervous because Mike is a great host. So Mike, thank you. Welcome here.
Okay, Francesco, remember our coaching from last Saturday. So on Saturday, Francesco and I and Mike, who's here today, and we were in a Twitter space, which is, for any of you who don't know what Twitter Spaces is, it's live audio. It's like an audio conference. It's sort of like this, but just in just audio form. And so we were in one with Pratim, who is hosting on Saturday. She did such an amazing job. And it was about how to get confidence in public speaking. And one of the things I was teaching everyone was, instead of saying you're nervous, say, I'm excited. And then that's a good way to channel your energy and step into a speaking engagement.
Perfect. So Samantha, I'm super excited to have
you. There we go. Perfect.
For everyone, I'm from India and live. Ayush is an amazing guy. You will see him soon also on my channel. I live in Bangalore, also known as Tech City or Silicon Valley of India. I'll come there one day. So Samantha, we will talk about networking, but before we start, I would like you to introduce yourself maybe in a more relaxed way, because in Twitter Spaces there are so many guests, a lot of people joining. So can you tell a little bit about your story and also your background? Because every time I make this kind of live streams, I know something more about my friends. So please, can you tell us a little bit of your story, and then we will go with some questions. If you have some questions, usually we will have them at the end, but if you have something related to the topic, you can also drop them while we do this live stream. So Samantha, a little bit about you. Thank you.
All right. So I'm Samantha, and I'm from Alberta, Canada. And I grew up here, but I've been around the world. And Francesco is actually from Rome, Italy. which he
I
doesn't
am.
say very often. He should. That's like the coolest thing ever. And
It is.
I've actually been to Rome, and so that's part of how him and I connected because I asked him where he's from, and he told me. And then I sent a picture of my husband and I on our 10-year anniversary in front of the Trevi Fountain, and then he's like, "Oh, I have a video on that." And so then he
Yes.
sent me a YouTube video, and then we just like connected right away. So even there's part of networking right there. So that's
Yeah.
how him and I kind of started to get a little bit more connected.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I'm kind of I'm a multi-achiever, to be honest. I've got quite a few, I call them cat lives sometimes, but quite a few credentials under the belt. So I don't always know what to share in a space because it depends on what it's for. I'm actually, to be honest, I'm a tax expert by first trade. That's what I spent most of my life doing. So basically a tax accounting. Now people will mix me up with with accountants, but what I did was a crossover between law and accounting. And so it's a very narrow field. In fact, if you go to like a firm like KPMG, there's only a few people who do that. So what I loved is in my profession, I did about 7,500 tax returns, which is a lot. And, in the 25 years I was doing them. And I learned a lot about people. Like I learned about humans and how they behave and how they work. And one of the coolest things about my job, and I know you want to ask a bit about me, but this is who I am. I love helping people. And that's what I loved about taxes. And I insisted on always doing what I call an opening interview and a closing interview. So I got to know them, heard their story, found out about them, and then I knew the right questions to ask. And then when we finished up, I always went over and taught a piece of taxes to them so they could be better advocates for themselves. And the best was always when I had somebody who needed to afford a computer for a child at school, and all of a sudden they were getting a refund they weren't expecting because I was able to wiggle around some things or find some deductions for them so that they weren't expecting. So I really loved my job. I love getting to know people. What was really great about it, and I think why I'm so good at networking, or it's easy for me, is because I met all walks of life. Anyone from like, somebody who's recently immigrated and working a ground level job, can barely speak English, and trying to figure Canada out and how everything works and business and organizations, to all the way to doing corporate returns with CEOs, with companies. And so all genders, all types of people, all kinds of cultures. And so I would just sit and with them and listen to their stories. So that's a bit about who I am. If you really want to know more about like all the like credentially type stuff, you can go down to my LinkedIn, or if you go down to the description below, you can hit the about button and it'll like tell you, I actually, my husband and I farm in Canada. And okay, here's something for you, Francesco. We grow durum, which is made into wheat, or which is wheat, which is made into flour and shipped all the way to Italy to make your pasta.
Perfect. I can make pasta for you. Do you want to make to send it back?
Well, actually, okay, this is a weird thing. We grow the wheat here, and then it's shipped to Italy, and then they make it into pasta, and then it's shipped all over the world. So it comes right back to Canada. So we could be eating food that came from each other's country. So how cool is that?
I don't know. Maybe you can bring some here, and then I come back to in Canada with you. So yeah.
Okay, let's do that. All right, good. Let's get going. Yeah, 7,500 tax returns, no joke. Yeah, I could pretty much do a tax return in my sleep. But anyone who's out there, it's Canadian taxes, and I closed my practice. So I'm not taking any new clients.
Okay, this is good. This is good to point out. Yeah, Samantha, please go on. I just tell you that I'd like you to keep introducing yourself just a little bit more. This is already super interesting for me. Then if we want, we can talk maybe 5 minutes about Twitter and social media, and then we step into the main topic, if this is okay for you. Okay?
Yeah. Sounds great. I will just take a moment to just say hi to so many people. I've met Kush through Twitter as well, of course.
Yeah.
And Belle, my buddy, thank you so much for showing up. Love it. Oh my gosh, Ayusha's here, and we saw Mike. Arvind, oh, he's like my #1 fan. Every time, oh, this guy's going places. He's pretty cool. So if you don't know him, you should get to know him. Then we have Ari. Oh my gosh. Okay, I have if I remember, I'm going to tell you a really good networking thing that happened with Ari. Actually, so well, he might be part of a story today if we can fit it in. And then we've got Michael and Eddie. I invited him over on LinkedIn, and I was like, let's show Francesco some love. So Eddie, by the way, he moved another meeting around just so he could be here with you today, Francesco. I want you to know that. That's so much.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. My friend Pamela. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I got great people I know here. So yeah, let us know if you're here. Comment. Let us know where you're from. That's even cooler. Yeah. We're an international audience all over the world. India, Rome, Canada, all over. Yeah, please let us know.
Hey, Pamela. Hi. I see some people. Debjit, hello. Perfect. We bought rock. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. J's here too. Oh wow, she's awesome. She's such a good supporter.
Nice. Yeah. Samantha, I think we also need to plan maybe some other Twitter space. I've been on one of her Twitter space. It was like 5 a.m. in the morning. I remember that. It was a couple of days ago. So please go on. So people also.
Are you talking about the Twitter space you jumped in on mine that I was on the other day? Yeah. So that was so amazing of you. I have an assistant who I had met through Rome Research. This is even power of networking even more. So we're starting here. Rome Research, I was part of a book club. I know it wasn't really a book club. It was more of a study how to take something called Smart Folks from Sankey Adams. And so I met her through a Rome Research, which is kind of a nerdy note-taking app. I don't know if you probably know about it, where you can do backlinking, and I'm talking a little nerdy right now, but super cool. And so it's basically a collective intelligence group working through how to process thoughts and then summarize them. And so there was a girl there from the Philippines who was taking the course with us. And this girl could like rub shoulders with those of us who are, quite accomplished in our careers, a lot older than her. Some of us are some PhDs and people writing theses in there. And I was so impressed with her mind. And she lives in a village in Philippines, but because of COVID and everything's completely shut down, half the time they can't get in and out of the city. Her family was unable to work. And so I offered her some VA work that I really needed, because she can work. She's the only one in her family and she could work remotely. And that's how we met. So she's been doing some part-time VA work for me. Working with my podcast. And anyway, she can't go to school there anymore. And she's not, everyone asks me, like, why do I care so much about her situation specifically? But like, I'm going to tell you a bit about myself. I was, my mom was 16 when she was pregnant with me, North American standards, welfare kid, no networking opportunities, no opportunities actually, very little, except for they live in Canada. And so because of that, I have access to education. So, I had a smart mind and I was able to use that and go to university and change my life and change my trajectory of my future. But in many other countries, that's just not possible. And so I encouraged her to apply internationally. She applied at a bunch of schools and she got into the University of London, and she's going to do some coding and she's got some startup ideas about creating some apps. So I'm trying to help her with her tuition and her scholarship. Maybe I'll put it in the comments later below. Or if any of you happen to have that tweet or the information, if you could put it in there, that'd be wonderful. So you know about it. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. And Francesco jumped in and you gave her so much encouragement. She's a really, so just by popping into the Twitter spaces, and this is the power of networking. Here's Francesco, 50,000 followers on Twitter. And he just pops into this room where most of the people are under, just starting out on Twitter, just starting out their careers. And then Francesco walks in and they just like, and heard you be encouraging, and right there you gave a donation. So anyway, that's the power of networking, because you knew me, you dropped in, and all of a sudden the room went live.
Perfect. And by the way, Eddie, thank you for donating in this live stream. So this is really amazing. You're basically giving money each other in each live stream. Thank you so much, Eddie. Awesome story. Yeah, Eddie. Thank you for everyone. Yeah, we are planning to meet in real life with Eddie maybe next year.
We're gonna do a live event and see what we can do for her. So
yeah. Perfect. Thank you. You are too kind, Eddie. Perfect, Samantha. So can we go into the main topic of this YouTube event, call this, whatever you want? Yeah, no worries. So what is networking? Because I think this is something that I've always underestimated. So I've worked also, for example, in a gym. I knew like hundreds of people. I was like the trainer, the coach. So it was not a problem for me. I did this kind of job. But outside of that, I had a very small group of friends. I've never used the social media. I don't know. I know that this sounds crazy now, and then I totally changed in the last 2 years. But this is not something that happens every day to everyone. I probably also because of the COVID, I've seen this opportunity for me, so I started to networking, and that's it. But so, can you make an introduction about networking? What is and why? So, what and why? Thank you.
Yeah, love to do that. So, first of all, I'm going to highlight some things in today's live stream, but there's just simply not enough time to talk about everything that I put together in networking methods that I've spent years testing and learning. So, I'm actually finishing up a comprehensive networking guide that you can use. And for any of you who are interested and you want to know about this comprehensive guide, as well as I'm going to have some more detailed notes if you want to remember them and what we talked about today with some extra bonuses. So, if you look down in the description area, you're going to see where it says subscribe to my newsletter. So please subscribe to my newsletter, and then when I release that networking guide, which I'm pretty sure you're going to want, it will be worth your time for sure. So make sure you subscribe to that. So we'll cover what we can today. So networking is really about a power of connecting. There's a connection when we network. I don't always love the word networking, but we're used to it. So you'll start to see a lot more people talking about connecting. And probably just because of the internet, we use the word network a little bit differently, especially with coding and all of that. So it might be why there's a shift in the word. But I'm going to talk about why it's important. So there's a few elements that are really important. One is it's not just about forwarding your career or your opportunities, which is a given. We all want to have our best opportunities and for success. But really, when I think about networking, it's not really about who I can know and who I can leverage. I think about people that I want to be influenced by, people that I want to be grown by, people I look up to, and I want to be part of their circles. So in my Twitter, actually a while ago, I'll post that later, I wrote an article about your influencers. And we've heard this saying, you are like the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, whenever I sit and look at those 5 people, sometimes I would need to add one in there. And so networking is a good opportunity to maybe potentially bring someone into my 5 of influencers. And influencing doesn't always mean that, we talk all the time. It could just be that I follow them on some sort of social media or content that they have. And so one is to enrich yourself and grow. I'm about personal growth. I'm actually I'm a super learner. I'm always learning. And you can learn, I personally think, but hanging out with people, you can learn more than you can in books. So, book is a very solo thing. It's not a reciprocated relationship. So that's why it's so important. The other is obviously to advance your career. And you never know when you're going to need that. So you might be comfortable in the career you're in right now, in the place you're in, but COVID is an exact good example of why it's important to always be putting out some good vibes. Exactly like Dr. J says, she's talking about good vibes. Put them out all the time, because when COVID happened, I promise you that there were millions of people trying to think, who's in my network? What I'm going to have to change. I'm going to have to pivot. Who can I go to? Or maybe who can I help? Or, who can I get a job from? Who can help me? Who can I help? And so that's why it's so important. I like the connecting part, but you never know. I like helping people. So there's another thing for networks. So I've gotten a lot of people, a lot of jobs. I think if I remember, the statistic is if you have been referred by someone they know, you're 55% more likely to get hired. So when sometimes some people I know in the business community here know that I spend a lot of time with young adults. They're like my favorite people in the world. And so they'll come to me and say, we're looking for someone to hire. Do you know anyone? And they'll tell me, they don't even post them. They'll tell me, and then I will, think about who I have in my network. I'll approach some people. And then I always say to the person, I'm putting my name on you. You're more than likely going to get this job because I'm putting my name on you.
Do you know that this is exactly what happened to me a couple of days ago, because I jumped in a call for a possible collaboration, and that person said, I've seen an article of tech Twitter is dying, is full of people just trying to sell stuff, people grifter, people who are really fake. And he said to me that someone, which I don't know, told him, but there is this Francesco who is nice. So I don't know who is that person, But for example, yeah, this shocked me because this means something. Yeah, after you work, it means a lot. Yeah. Hi, Chris. Hi, Pratim. Check your calendar. We have a Twitter space on Saturday. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, this is great. This, yeah, Samantha. Yeah, it's great. Do you have something to add? Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, and this is not this isn't only true of just getting jobs. So what I always say to someone, I put my name on it, like if it's a verbal conversation, I'm like, I just put my name on you. So please, number one, show up early, at least 5 minutes minimum for your job, for your job every day. And then I'm just like, be super respectful. And I'm like, I recommended you because of these reasons, but I just kind of give them a little mini pep talk, and then I'm just like, now go rock it. So it's amazing. So I know I have one gal that I got a job, and she's been working there now 8 years, and that's how she supports her family, is completely off of that. So and they hired her completely off of my recommendation. So they did interview her, and then later they said to me, we completely hired her because she only had a grade 8 education, because she is from a country where they don't educate women. They're only allowed to go up, or she's from a culture that they don't educate past a certain age, but she's brilliant. And I knew that personally. So I vouched for her because she couldn't put that she had her high school on there, even though she was brilliant. So that's how networking works. It will shortcut you. So if it says right on there, you need to have this X amount of education, but someone comes along and says, I can vouch for their intelligence or their abilities or their skills, boom, you can bypass that. But it also works for not just getting jobs or getting referred, but also for connecting with people in like upper management. So I call them warm intros. So I'm already doing the lessons. This is why it's important. Sometimes I'll have someone come to me and say, Samantha, I'm developing this. Can you give me some help or some ideas? And I do consulting on especially online products sometimes. And then if I know somebody who I genuinely think will benefit from it, I will call them up first, or DM, or I'll text them. And then I'll just say, hey, I've got somebody that I think you really want to work with. And do you mind if I warm intro you? And they're like, yeah, for sure. So I'll go into the email, and then I will warm intro the person or whatever it is they've got to offer, and say, hey, my friend Laura here has this. I really think you're going to benefit from it, and you two have this in common. And then I usually will put like a comment in there about a starting point for their conversation, what they have in common and why they have a mutual interest. And then boom, they go. And that warm intro, I mean, she could never have even got his email. So, but because I've done that, so a warm intro is really important. And so this is why sometimes on LinkedIn, you'll see people going for like the vice president or the assistants. And so, because if you can connect with them, you'll get a warm intro to the people you want to talk to.
Perfect. And I didn't want to interrupt you. I see networking is a superpower. Chris said I absolutely should learn. Skills alone won't open so many doors as your network will. I totally agree with this, Chris. Now, probably some years ago, I would know what you were talking about. It's great because you're also telling them that you believe in them and giving them external impetus. I love this Latin word. Gives them confidence. Yeah, so Samantha, also before, almost at the beginning, when you started to talk about networking, you said something interesting that usually people say, like, do this so you will influence people, you will be an influencer and that. But you said the opposite. You say that you will be influenced by the other people, and you can choose because at the end of the day, you always get influenced by your environment, the people. You can say that you will not be influenced, but at the end of the day, you can make some decision, even if they are in a strange, in a certain type of environment. But of course, that environment influences you in some ways. So this is something very interesting. Also, if you want to get started, for example, to join a community, you decide who you start to follow when you are new. Let's say, for example, this happens to me on Twitter. When I started, I decided who I wanted to follow for first, which are developers and people from the tech world, and then now I know many of them. So, yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah, I actually wrote I will tweet it out. I wrote 10 qualities you should look for in your influencers. So a few months ago, I was part of an online community called Ship 30 for 30. And it's a writing community where you write for 30 days straight. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. One of the hardest ones, because I had to write every day. And I'm a fast speaker and thinker, but I'm a slow writer. I can write, but I have terrible arthritis. And I, before the age where they taught typing in school. And so I never did get good typing skills. And so, because of all the typos, it just slows my communication down in a written. So I did this chip 30 for 30. And so we would do these atomic essays. So they're mini essays. And one of them, I'm an out of the box person, so I don't always write or do what everyone says. So in this particular one, I did this chart up. And it's, so I'll share it in there as soon as I'm done speaking. It's 10 qualities you should look for in influencers. And
Perfect.
the quality of your personal growth is directly related to the quality of influencers in your life. And then I go down and I use that acronym of influencer down into the chart. And so I is invest in people, N is be natural and transparent. I think that authenticity is really important. Faith in people. I believe in people, and I'm always trying to give people an extra chance to prove themselves and have another opportunity to try again. L is for listening to people. U, understanding people. E, encourage people. N, navigation of people. So knowing how to work around who they are and what kind of person they are. And then also concern, like care about people, have enthusiasm for people, and then always respect for people. So you should have these things, but then also anyone that is an influence of yours needs to have all of them. It's not just one-sided. So you need to be those things too. And influencers come in surprising forms. YouTubers, podcasters, speakers, authors, clubhousers, tweeters like us, newsletter writers, parents. I mean, TikTok's obvious, Instagrammers, authority figures, news outlets, actually. News outlets are influencers. So are political leaders, aunts, uncles, mentors, athletic people you follow or coaches and online communities. They're all influencers. So I'll post that link for anyone who wants to look at it. So.
Yeah, perfect. I think that some people in the chat, they want to see me cry because I see a lot of compliments. Sorry, Samantha, I don't want to steal your scene, but thank you, people. Yeah, Alvin, don't worry. Yeah, and they say, yeah, if you want, that would be great. I'm awesome. They say this. Just cool. I don't have the glasses here. So, yeah, Samantha. So thank you, by the way. I'm speechless. Samantha, I will not say your age if you want to. You'll say this, but you look way younger. But what about something that you would change? Because, for example, I started late. We can say on social media, like 2 years ago. I was like 36 when I started, and when I started to coding, I was 32. I had basically another life before that. So we can see that I started late, both as a developer and as a person on social media. But I have this thing that I get obsessed. So if I like something, I get really involved a lot. I spend a lot of time and I put a lot of effort, and sometimes I can rake up some time that I lost. And in a while, also Chris has donated something. Thank you so much, Chris. Yes. So Samantha, what about the past? Something that you change?
That reminds me of a story, and I'm going to answer that in a story. Before I do that, in the private chat, I just put a link to that influencer tweet. So I don't know if you can add that in the YouTube comments. I don't think I can do it from my side. So
I can. About what?
Yes, but any of you who are watching, yeah, we want you to look at it after the show. So,
sure.
All right. So this is interesting what you said about what I wish I would have done when I was younger. First of all, like I was saying earlier, I wasn't a person of privilege. In fact, I know, honestly, I was like the kid that no one talked to in school. And I had like mountains of acne, and I had like one friend out of 900 person school and like one good friend. So people didn't really hang out with me. I don't think it was because I was, it wasn't really my personality. I know I went to a more affluent school, and my mom was, I definitely didn't come from an affluent background, and a single parent. Back then there was very few, especially in that school. And so, I didn't have opportunities. In fact, I worked McDonald's, no joke. And I loved it, by the way. I worked at McDonald's for 4 years when I was a teenager, flipping burgers, serving fries, no networking opportunities. I didn't have a name or anything like that. It's not like my kids now who will walk into a place and say, this is my mom, or I'm a Dutch kid and I grew up on a farm and I know how to work hard. They pretty much will just get job offers like that. I didn't have that. I had to work from the ground up. And so 2 things from that. One is, side note, the reason why I look so young, apparently, so all of you who struggle with acne, I know this isn't about networking and I hope it's not inappropriate, but the blessing is that you don't wrinkle very fast, apparently. So you look younger later. So all my nice skin that I got 5 years ago all came from all these years of really oily skin. So I suffered in the beginning, but it definitely has increased my confidence with networking, just the way I look, because now I don't struggle with the way my skin looks. So I was just being a little vulnerable there and transparent. But I mean, I always did network a little bit. And the funny thing is, I just had a story about this. It was in July, and I was at a community barbecue. It was like a cook-off. And I'm really social with especially young adults. It's like we meet in the air and I'm gravitated to them. It's like we're magnets or something. And there was these two young adults sitting at the table next door to us. And I kind of lean over and I just made a comment about how messy the burgers were, and that we would like maybe need some napkins. And I was just like feeling the vibe. And then right away, they just like engaged. And then we were just in a conversation. And that's how networking works. You really just like lean over, make a comment, talk about, even if it's just like passing the salt, and feel the vibe. And you can right away know if you should start that connection. A friend of mine, Mo, on Twitter, he says, interesting things happen at intersections. That's what his dad used to say. I love that. And so we had an intersection at this barbecue, and we just started chatting up. Turns out they're university students, and we graduated from the same university. And we're graduated from the same program. So I have a Bachelor of Management from the Faculty of Management. It's a business degree. And they're in their third year. So they said to me, what would you tell yourself as a student in your third year? And so this is why this question is so perfect for me. And and I want you to listen up, everyone, because there's a really good takeaway at the end of why this is so powerful. Just this starting up conversations. And so I said to them, honestly, if I was to start over again, I would start leaving myself breadcrumbs. Now, this works in a digital age. So she's like, what do you mean? I call this the breadcrumb network method. I just kind of made it up on the go. It's simply, I totally made it up from this encounter with them. So what I did is I said, I'll show you, because I'm a teacher. So I'll show you. So we open up our phones. I said, grab your phone. We go onto LinkedIn, because they're in business, and that's where we do business, over on LinkedIn. They weren't on Twitter. And so I said, let's go in the DMs and DM each other. So here's your networking tip. And this is what I would tell my younger self. When you meet someone and you've got an energy and you've connected, DM them right there, if you possibly can, or right after. So here's the trick, because this is a digital trick. And this works really well because we often meet people like on Zoom calls now and like webinars. And so right away, sometimes there'll be some energy that happens in the chat groups. And so DM them. And this is what you do. So you DM them and say, hey, it was really great to meet. And then you say the person's name. So I'm going to say this was Francesco. Francesco, it was really great to meet you today on the live stream. Use people's names. It's really important in networking. And then just say, you know what? My favorite thing that we talked about today was when you asked me my age. Okay, it wasn't, but like you would just say something that would connect you. Usually it should be something you want to remember, because what you're doing is leaving, like in a month from now or 2 months or 6 months, you're not going to remember that thing that really connected you or impressed you. So I'd say, Francesco, it was really great to meet you today. I love that we talked about networking. My favorite story was when you were talking about how you just, he showed me something earlier about how he got tagged in on a big fashion name on Twitter. It's super fun. You should see his reply. And I'm like, that was really fun. And then and so what I've done is created a breadcrumb. It's in the DMs. Now, in a digital world, and especially when our social media is growing so fast, I mean, mine growing about 1,000 a month right now, and I'm starting to not remember where I'm meeting everybody. But if I can go into the DM and someone has left a breadcrumb, it's like, oh, that's right, that's where we met. So this works really well on LinkedIn. This is what I was teaching them. So I was saying, let's go on LinkedIn, let's do this. And so I taught them, say that you met me, where we met, and something we talked about that you want to remember. Now, if you say, that's the part to be memorable. If you want to be remembered, say something that you learned from them, because I teach a lot of things, and I'll do a seminar, and then people will be like, that was the best seminar ever. I'm going to come to all your seminars. I'm like, what did I say? And then someone else will go send me one and it says, my favorite part was when you said, hang out with happy people if you want to be a happy person. And 3 people said that to me. And I was like, oh, okay, that resonated with people. And it was just a side comment. It wasn't even part of my speech or anything like that. So that's why it's really important. So then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, this person pays attention. And then they got my interest. So I was teaching this method to them. We did it. Fun thing is, I go home and in LinkedIn, I go, hey, here's a networking tip to my younger self. I went and outlined the tip, and then I tagged the 2 of them, Chantel Berry and oh, I think his name was Mike. Oh my gosh. Sorry if I got your name wrong, Mike. But I tagged them in it on the LinkedIn, and then I went and put it on my Twitter. And they were just really excited about this whole thing. Crazy thing is, a few weeks later, about 3 weeks later, Chantel calls me up and messages me, and she says, remember we met at this barbecue? And I'm like, yeah, and it hadn't been that much time. And she's like, you know what? I'm in charge of getting a keynote speaker for the Faculty of Management, and I'd love for you to speak for us. So I landed a keynote speech from just talking at a barbecue, being interested in what they were doing, teaching them something of value. So I gave them something of value, and then they remembered and later landed a keynote each. What's pretty cool about this is, one, I'm an alumni, so this like means a lot to me, and I'm really excited to go back to the school where I have my roots from and really help make me into something. And the other is like, these are going to be influential people. These are faculty of management. And so, future business mind, future influencers. So the power of that networking is going to turn into a larger network. And simply just because I've started chatting up with the person next door.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that this is luck, because this is something to work a lot on, and then there are some opportunities, but you need to make your own luck. Otherwise, if you just sit and wait for opportunities, very few will come up in your life. So I totally agree with that, and you have not been lucky. Before going on the next question, we have a question from Eddie Jode, which is very important. Are we invited to your 3rd birthday, Samantha?
Okay, well, if we could go back in time, I will tell you the honest truth. I'm not embarrassed. I'm 47 years old. Yeah.
Amazing. It's amazing.
And I actually, Francesco was like, can I tell everyone? I literally recently just became a grandmother. My 23-year-old son just had a baby, and I'm a grandmother now. So yeah, that's like pinch myself-ish, but but there's a trick to age. Always never act your age. I'm always going to act a little young. So I like to live life as to the best I can and embrace it. Life is really short. You only have so much time on your earth, so enjoy it. So yeah, I'm gonna.
Perfect. So Samantha, thank you so much for this. These are really great advices. I'm sure that I'll watch this interview again after we have recorded this, maybe tomorrow. And
for the tips, you mean, Francesco?
What?
Why will you watch it again, for the tips?
Yeah, because I want to watch this relaxed without the people in the chat.
You're distracted with the comments.
So
if you want all the details, just like I said earlier, subscribe to my newsletter, and then you'll get some more details on networking tips.
I've already done this, and you can do the same, because I think that this is really a great way to get some useful things. Sometimes it's really maybe a small step in networking can be a huge shift in your whole life. I don't know if we can talk about this, but we don't really know which connection maybe we can transform in a great opportunity. So we should just do this, and then we will see in the future. These already happened like 4 or 5 times since I started the Twitter, like something really shocking. For example, the Docker Captain stuff. I need that newsletter. You just go in the description and click a link. Now I'll, for the lazy people, I'll also post this in the chat. So you just adjust one click, because I know that developers are a bit lazy. They are amazing, but they are a bit lazy.
I'm just starting that newsletter, so be patient. You won't get like pop in the networking tips right away. I'm just putting the finishing touches on it. I get asked a lot on networking and public speaking. And it's interesting because my business background is quite different. I sometimes used to run Twitter spaces called business startups and side hustles, which was really great because there's a lot of people from all over the world. And here's how networking works again. literally, I had people in a remote village in India who's got a startup idea, able to go on a Twitter space and ask somebody questions about how to launch an online product in a Twitter space right there, real time, real life. That's networking. So you might not think it is, but just attending an event is networking as long as you speak up or as long as you attend. So in this case, they would come up in Twitter spaces, which is sort of like this. But just anyone who's commenting, we could bring them up to ask a question themselves. So yeah, that's a power. And so actually there's a guy in the group right now, his name's Arvind, and we met through a Twitter space. I think your Twitter space is actually, and he DM'd me because he DM'd me and asked me about English because I have a teaching English as a foreign language certification. I went to lived in Costa Rica for a few years with my 17-year-old daughter. And so I made a comment, I think. And so he texted me and said, hey, I met you in this group, did exactly this networking tip. I actually might have gave this networking tip in there. And he texted me and said, do you have any tips for me for English? Well, now him and I have a DM going and I send him little YouTube videos, speaks amazing English, but he's got the rhythm of his Hindi. So the rhythm of his English is off. So I've been helping him work on the rhythm. This is, by the way, anyone who's listening, please don't DM me and ask for English lessons. You can ask Arvind maybe because he's got some videos for you. So, but yeah, every once in a while I saw it and I was like, hey, I can help out that way. You never know who you're going to get access to. Like, for example, I remember the first time I met Francesco. And funny thing is, I texted him last night because I sometimes screenshot our Twitter spaces, not always. And I was like, when's the first time I met Francesco? Like, and I looked back, turns out it was April 28th, and we were in a group for introverts. And we did not know each other then. In fact, the only reason is because I know your profile photo. We didn't know each other back then. And from there, a couple times later, I was in one of his Twitter spaces. He brought me up on stage to share. I think we were talking about, I don't know if it was like small accounts or something, and like how to like encourage people who are just starting out. And then he's like, then he followed me. He's got like 50,000 followers and he only follows a very handful of people. And that's the power of networking. Like, had we not spoken and shared a seminar room, which is the digital space, we would never have met. And you're from Rome in Italy. And you know why I call myself an international keynote speaker? Because I get brought on stage on live audio rooms all the time as a keynote speaker. And South Africa, Italy, Australia, Kenya, the United States, all over. So that's the power of networking in digital space. We're not restricted to the physical anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So Samantha, can we talk a little bit more about this shift? Because before maybe networking, it was. I can remember that I went and some in real life webinars. I think a couple in 5 years. And he said like, okay, now let's network a little bit. Then I started to use this term networking in real life.
Right.
But a lot of things changed, especially in the last 2 years. So. Yeah. What can we say about the current situation? A lot of companies shifting everything on online. For example, the last Docker official event, before it was a new real life, and now it's a webinar. For me, it has been good because I've attended this as a host. It has been very easy. Honestly, I would love to do also some in real life event again. Now I'm starting to missing that, even if I've never done this. I miss that. I don't know why I say this. Yeah. So Samantha, can we explain maybe if we have passed. I hope that things will go better. But what have you noticed? What can you say?
Well, obviously the virtual world's here to stay. You know, when the telephones came, everybody didn't know how to handle that. You know, we're not going to talk personally anymore. We don't go walk over to each other's house or, you know, get us. We actually can just pick up the phone. So that is actually a similar transition from when phones came out to with all these virtual webinars. So we're not meeting people face to face. There is an energy that happens that you cannot quite replicate in a virtual space, obviously. But to be honest, our connection is proof that you don't need to physically be present with each other. Because when we're doing a space together or running a room together, I feel the energy through the air. And I think you've made comments like that too. So I think it can be replicated. And I think there's a deeper connection to all of us than what we physically see. So, and I think it can be replicated. So I'm just going to give some tips about how I've adapted in the webinar world.
Yeah, please.
And so here you go, everyone. Listen up. These are top tips. These are going to get you somewhere, I promise.
Yeah,
So,
you have been patient and now you'll be rewarded. So stay tuned because this is the boom part. Go.
This is a good one. Okay,
Samantha.
webinar powerful networking tips, and I've done them. They work. I promise you, they work. Okay, listen up. Actually, I'm going to tell you a story. I like telling stories because they're sticky. So I'm going to tell you how I figured this out. So I was in an Ali Abdul space. He's like the guy on productivity. He's a medical doctor on YouTube. He's just like literally gone crazy. So I was doing, when COVID happened, they were doing all these free webinars for people. So I was on a free webinar, and we've got a chat group like this. Just exactly kind of like what we're doing right now. And so what I would do is whenever he said something really good, I would put it into quotation marks and then put his name on it. So I'd quote him and I would put that in there. Well, people who are taking notes and everything else, they can copy and paste those and they love them. And then I thought to myself, oh, well, because people were like, oh, thanks for the quote. Thanks for getting that down for me. This works with live tweeting too, by the way. You can live tweet and do the same thing and get noticed. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So then I thought, well, what if? And then so, depending on the chat you're in on a Zoom call, you can do this. I would put an emoji at the end of my name. So I put an emoji, and then every time I type and put a comment in the side, then an emoji shows up and it stands out. So there's a way to stand out. Put an emoji, put some personality. It gives you personality from afar, not just a name. And so then I did that. And then people were just responding to it. And there was like this energy. I felt kind of bad for them because literally we kind of took over the chat group with just a bunch of, where are you from? What's going on? Hey, Samantha, who are you? And I'm like, hey, who are you? And then I was like, and about a third of the way in, I'm like, wouldn't that be so cool if we could connect on Twitter? So then I did two things. One, I changed my handle, or renamed my name on Zoom to @Samantha Postman, because that's my Twitter handle. Works for me because my handle is the same as my name. But you could put your Twitter handle in and then put your name at the end. Because I think first names especially are really important. So then I thought, we can create Twitter group chats. So I go on there and I say, hey, this is amazing that we're all here for this webinar today, and we're learning this. This is so cool. I'd love to take this conversation over on Twitter later if anyone is interested, and maybe we have some ideas and some ideas we can share. So I'm like, here's my Twitter handle. DM me so I can add you to a group chat. So then I go in and like almost a whole bunch of people are posting their Twitter handles. So there's engagement. So go over, create a group chat. This is what you all can do, right? This is telling a story to show it to you. So you go over to the group chat and you start adding all those handles, and you can do it at the end. Now you are going to have some people who drop out of it. And that's fine. But let's just say you have 4 of them. And then you can just continue that conversation. What usually happens in those group chats is we share notes. Maybe somebody was got super secretarial skills and they'll share their notes and things like that. Or maybe there's another seminar coming up and people are like, hey, are you guys going to go to this seminar too? And so that's a networking tip. So you can create them. Now we've got something even cooler. Because back when I did that one, I didn't know about this. So here, listen up. Here's another thing you can do. You can offer to do a backstage after chat. So tell everyone in the group chat on the webinar that you'd love to take this over to Twitter and create a space. And so let's say the event is ending in half an hour. You can say in 45 minutes, I'm going to start a tweet, give people time for a bio break and get some water, and then start a chat. Next thing you know, now you're all talking about it. And that's even better than the group chat. So get a Twitter space or a Clubhouse. And how I learned that is because I'm part of Rome Research, and I was on a webinar. I don't know if it was a webinar or just it was a community meeting. And then one of the people in the group said, hey, I heard about Clubhouse. This was back in February. And they're like, I heard about Clubhouse. Let's all go and start an after chat in Clubhouse. And then I got an invite into Clubhouse because that's when it was exclusive for Apple users. And boom, there we are. I even have a screenshot at my very first experience on Clubhouse. And there we have like 20 of us just talking right there. I remember people who are in the room. There's networking. This is what you can do. like before in physical space, after the seminar, people just left. Maybe people go for coffee, but now we can create social chat rooms. We can create text group chats. There's lots of avenues. So this is what I recommend. One little trick that I've learned: when you put when you tell people, here's my Twitter handle, DM me, you will have to put it down at the bottom, because as soon as everyone starts putting their Twitter handle, it's like yours gets buried way at the top. So then you just say, hey, for any of you who missed it, here's my Twitter handle. So make it a reason to put it in there, so you don't sound like a loser, like you're just trying to put it in there a bunch of times.
Yeah, I like what you said. Sometimes also in some of my videos, I say that you should be a little bit shameless. So, and there is nothing wrong in just to trying to expose yourself in a good way, of course. But you need to to expose yourself. You need to do that extra step. Sometimes it's, especially for introverts, it's very hard to do that step. Now I'm working on this. I don't know if I'm out or not about of that, but yeah, it really can change. Maybe your future. Just do that extra step. Sometimes it's a bit of effort, but yeah. There we go. Perfect. So we have a lot of questions, but before before going on the questions, I have one last one. So because we all want, I also made a thread about this some days ago. So we all want to stand out. We want to be to look special. We are all special in some ways, but how can we actually stand out in million of people? Sorry, there is some noise. So how can we stand out in out of millions of people?
Yeah. This is a really great question, and my answer is going to work for introverts and for extroverts. So, especially in a digital world, and I mentioned it before, so I'm just going to go back to it. So, my big tip is DM people when you meet them, or you've come across something they've written, and so DM them and say, hey, this is how I met you. Hey, we were in this Twitter space together. Name the Twitter space. If you can, put a screenshot in there. Say, this is the Twitter space. It's a really great tip, really great reminder breadcrumb. And then say something you learned from the person, or that you noticed about the person. And this will work for even an introvert. If there's someone you follow, and you read something in their content, or a great YouTube, send them a DM that says, hey, I watched this, or put it in the comment section on their YouTube. Especially that works really well, because that helps them too, because publicly people see it. And then say what resonated with you. That will help you stand out, because I get DMs that'll say, that was a great space, thank you. But that doesn't resonate with me. I might get 10 of those. But if you said, that was a really great tip, this is how I'm going to use it, or I really loved your tip about putting an emoji on your Twitter and your Twitter handle when you're in a webinar. Well, I'm like, now that's all it takes. That one sentence, that's all it takes to get noticed. You just showed me that you went the extra mile, and I'm just going to go, oh, wait a minute. So that an introvert can do that. Now, as some of you are going to be on the other end of this, so this is my networking. I do it back. So if people don't know all these lessons, and I don't hold it against them, but if they just say, that was a really great space, it's probably one of the best speaking spaces I've ever been in, well, that's a good compliment. It's not really specific. So I'll do two things. One, I'll say, I'd love to know what really resonated with you, because I'm learning. I'm always learning what resonates. How should I say it? But then I will say back, if they didn't, I'll say, it was great that you came to my speaking event with Francesco on this date, and I will leave the breadcrumb if they didn't. If it's someone I want to remember, I will do that, because in 6 months from now, you might text me again and or DM me, or maybe I come across you and then I go and hit DM and I'm like, oh, I know that person. We've connected before. This is how we connected. So I will do the reciprocate. I will often DM people back. So here's another little quick tip on that. And you want to stand out. If you tweet about us on Twitter, and depends what you're tweeting, if you DM me that tweet, I will see it in the notifications. But the nice thing is you've left me a breadcrumb. So if you tagged me in a tweet, and then you DM it to me, you're going to stand out. And you can just say, hey, I just want to let you know I sent this for you. Thank you so much. Because I'm now going to have a breadcrumb in my DM of our interactions, and it'll be a good reminder for me. So these are ways that you can stand out. These are
Yeah,
golden. I got so many.
yeah.
I'm like, oh my
People,
God, I'm almost out of time.
people really love you. You're famous, Samantha. You're amazing. For example, this happened to me. How did you know that you had content that has influencer worthy, Pamela?
Where are you seeing all these
No.
comments? I don't see all these comments.
Yeah.
I'll have to go on to-
For example, I had one person tagging me some days ago, and I DM'd him saying like, if you tag me, please also send me a DM because otherwise I can lose the notification.
Yeah,
And he said, oh, so I can't tag you. And I said, no, the opposite. Send me a DM with the tweet
right.
because I can lose it. Yes, so many gems, Samantha. I think that we will collaborate soon because the people they love you too much. So yeah, we need to make at least twice, or maybe a Samantha series. I don't know.
Oh, oh yeah. Okay, that's how, if you want to get noticed, everyone, Francesco's doing the game. He's like flattering me and feeding my ego, and that's a good way to get noticed.
But I'm always honest. I also invited her. Yeah, this is amazing. For example, Samantha has also helped me into organizing this because she knows what to do. So it has been really great. So now we have some time for questions. And already 1 hour. I don't know how much time you can stay, but I remember one question from Yuday, I think. He asked about public speaking.
Mm.
If I can find the question, because we had too many comments, but the question was it was about like public speaking, some tips about public speaking, if you can, Samantha. Thank you. Let me find this.
Yeah, it was at the top. I saw it. It's near the early part. Yeah, so about public speaking. Um, wow. I have to shift my head over to there. So we did a space on Saturday. I asked Francesco to see if we can get a recording. So we'll see if we can maybe post that recording for people and get it transcribed. There's a lot of great tips in there.
We will. I'm getting
Okay, so we're
the
gonna post
file.
it. So
I'm
if
getting the files and we will do that. Yeah.
okay, yeah. So if you want that, some people commented on it and said it was one of the best public speaking events they'd ever been to. So that's a good compliment, Francesco. That means you ran a good room. And so did Pratim and Mike.
This one
So
was the question. Yeah.
yeah, it was really good. So if you want those, and then also I am putting together a product for public speaking because I get asked that a lot. And so I'm going to be putting some tips together. So subscribe to my newsletter. You'll see it in the description below.
Oh, that.
And so that you'll get notified about that. So number one speaking tip, you know, the one that most people loved, I'll share that one. It's a bit long. I'll try to get it in a short version. So the one that most people seem to love from that one was, you're going to get nervous at every event. Even me, like Francesco and I have done quite a few, not a video one, but we've done lots of Twitter rooms together now. And so I'm really comfortable talking to him. He's like a guy of like heart, like gold, silver, and every precious metal there is. Like he is like amazing. And I'm so honored every time he asks me to come in, especially because I'm not a coder. And so I feel like unbelievably honored. So when I first met him, I was really nervous. He's got 50,000 followers. I'm just starting out and on just over there. And then, but even this morning, I was a little nervous. And so, but here's one tip: Wednesday, I'm excited. So instead of saying I'm nervous, channel that energy. So accept it, acknowledge, and say, I'm excited to be here today. So that's number one tip. And number two, there's a visualization. I'm just going to give it to you in the very short version, but I'll explain a very long and take you through an exercise when I put it out on my newsletter, do a product through my newsletter. But in the very, very short version of it is, imagine a time that you succeeded and you did really well. You had an achievement. So for me, I did my master's. I started at 40. I actually had some brain trauma. That's kind of a long story. It's a little bit in my about. If you go to my website on my about, I was in a wheelchair even for a period of time. And my brain had literally gone too much. Someone who had large parts of tax code and law memorized, I couldn't even hold a conversation. I was kind of Alzheimer-ish, asked the same questions multiple times. And so this is crazy, but I decided to do my master's about 8 years in. I was kind of wanting to get my life back. So I started a master's. And so I went from hardly being able to talk to a person more than 5 minutes, like not being able to run my brain like that, to graduating cum laude. And that is like unbelievable. And I remember it was an online studies. I flew into Chicago to walk the floor. I did online studies before everybody was doing them. My MA was completely online. And I went to go walk the floor because it was such a monumental moment. And I remember sitting there in the aisle waiting to go up with all of my cohort. We all flew in. They said that cohort was had the highest percentage of people who had done online around the world came in to walk the floor together. I'm sitting there with everyone I had journeyed with for 2 whole years. That's networking, by the way. It's like the power of networking. We were such a tight group. And I remember sitting there in that moment thinking back to before 2 years when I had started and how far I had come. And I remember thinking, if I can do that, I can do anything. And I will walk into that feeling whenever I'm feeling anxious, whenever I'm feeling inadequate, whenever I feel like I can't do something or something's too big or it's going to be too hard. I literally will just go, I will sit back in that chair, and I can envision it right now. I will sit back in that chair waiting to go up on stage and like lock in on that moment. And I promise you, if you do visualization tricks like that, you can get over just about anything, not just public speaking.
This is amazing, Samantha. Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, Eddie's asking me about videos. So I have a podcast. I'm going to be pivoting it, so it's going to change. But if you want to see any of my podcasts, it's in the links below. My podcast is on YouTube as well as on my website. So if you go to my website, it will give you the video, the audio. It's on every platform, every podcast platform there is. It's called Bold Perspectives. But if you type my name in, it'll come up. And it also is all transcribed. I personally like to read podcasts. I'm supposed to listen to them, but I can read a lot faster. So I like to skim them. So if you want the transcript, they're on my website.
Perfect. Thank you, Samantha. Then I'll post some links, but Kush, hey there, you're still there. Kush has followed since the beginning, so this is the live stream. So any good tip on time management? I think this is one of the questions that I get more often in my live streams. Almost in every live stream, I get these questions, and people have the different ideas. So time management, and also maybe how can we, I can add something related to the topic of networking, because networking takes time, like social media, creating content, your life, your family, eat and sleep. So everything takes time. So how can we manage our time related to networking, for example?
I see networking as a social activity because I am introverted in many ways. In other ways, I'm extrovert. I'm ambivert, I think is what they call it. I don't really like being called one or the other, but it depends on where I am and who I'm with. And so I see it as a social event, and it's a way to fill me but for me, it's a little easier because I genuinely love people and I love learning, and I love learning from people. And I find people so fascinating. Like I'm a problem solver. I can take things from any sector, especially because of my background, and be able to like cross and come up with solutions that people can't think of. And they're like, how do you do that? Well, 7,500 tax returns. So I've met most of them are married or in a couple. So let's just say, that's a lot of people that I've been with. So I've learned a lot through people. And so if you are a learner, a super learner, consider networking as your opportunity to learn. And then it's like education. And even if I encounter somebody who's grumpy, I'm learning something from them. I have learned really great coping mechanisms just by being around people. So like one little thing, here's a time management tip. I'm just going to give this to you, just tip. This is a whole nother conversation. I'm not the best at time management, but it's just how I view it. Side note, if you really want to get work done, get up an hour earlier. This is what my number one tip. I like when I do my business side hustles and startups on Twitter, first thing I say is get up an hour earlier. If you're doing a side hustle or startup, if you work from Monday to Saturday, and if you got to be hungry for it, by the way, and this whole Tim Ferriss thing, that does not work for startups. Okay. That works for a guy who's been doing it for a while. He had to get there. So if you get up an hour earlier, and I learned that I do this when I've got a big project, I get up and you can get an extra 6 hours a day in. And that's like when I really want to get my stuff in before the house is up. and then ideally get up an hour before your house is up if you've got a home, and then I will go down and say hello to everybody as they get up, and then I'll go back to work. And when I used to work in an accounting office, I always came in at least an hour to an hour and a half before all the staff, and I was working 12-hour days back then because tax season's stupid, like it's crazy hours. But I got my most work done first hour in the day when there's no phone, there's no clients, nobody asking me questions. So yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's an illusion because you need to go to bed 1 hour earlier. But I can say that I agree with this because usually at 4 a.m. I'm already working somewhere like a crazy. But I've noticed, for example, that I'm way more productive in the morning and in the late and in the evening. I just want to relax after dinner. So, for example, this is basically one of the reasons why I managed to do a lot of stuff. I don't know if this is a mental trick that I've done a lot of stuff. I watch the clock. It's 10 a.m. and I say, okay, so I already accomplished a lot, and some people still need to wake up. So maybe it's just a mental trick, but for me, for example, it works. Yeah.
I just want to respond to, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly, but Yudai, for if you had a question about, how do you say it? Yudai?
Which Shubham?
There's a comment there, and he's asking about being confident in front of the camera. So I'm going to address this one because I love it. It's an amazing question. I'm really, what, I thought about doing YouTube about 6 years ago, but I didn't want to look, this is going to sound really shallow. I didn't want to look old. I still had acne. Women too, it takes a lot to get ready. I promise you, when I'm on Francesco's Twitter Spaces, I don't look this put together. So I just didn't want to be on camera, and I was worried about getting old. Well, I waited 5 years. So I promise you, I have more wrinkles now, and I've aged now, and I'm worried about not being relevant because I'm too old now for the younger crowd. So one, I shouldn't have let that get in the way. But two, I discovered something when I was doing my podcast. I started out as a solo podcast, and getting in front of the camera, I was nervous. I hated it. I repeat the same question 10 times. I recorded 3 times, and I'm like, this is not working. And so then people started DMing me when I was doing this ship 30 for 30. And if you want to know more about that, it's on my website. There's a link where you can get $100 off if you decide you want to do it. If you go to the links page on my website. And so I was doing ship 30 for 30, and people keep DMing me and asking me, can we meet? Can we meet? Can we do a Zoom call? I want to talk to you about what you wrote about. And I was like, hey, maybe I should do that on my podcast. It's a little egotistical, but people interview me on my own podcast. But I don't know if it's any less egotistical than like doing a solo. But that was the trick for me, and that's why I'm coming back. So when and it's not always an interview, it's a conversation. So my podcast is more of a conversation, but it's more definitely they're asking me questions. So that is a trick. So find out what's your strength. Will you feel more comfortable on camera if you've got someone that you're comfortable with, because then you won't notice the camera. Because you're just having a conversation, and then potentially you could move to a solo, but not all people are soloists. So if you look, like, there's a lot of great, shows that have 2 people who are the lead team, who do all of the interviewing. So maybe that's just you. So I'd recommend trying it out, seeing if you could do it with somebody, and maybe that will just help your whole video. Because I don't like being videoed. I hate video, but yet I feel completely comfortable on Francesco's show today.
Yeah, and I can add something. By the way, I can say a couple of things. The most successful YouTubers that have been on my YouTube channel, they started being not confident in front of a camera. I don't know if this is something, because maybe if you're not confident at the beginning, once you become confident, you don't want to stop, you don't want to go back. So this could also be a power in the future. And I've been really totally uncomfortable in front of a camera. I can say just this very fast. There is no secret. You get used to that. The more you do, and the more you will feel confident. That's it. There is really no secret. Trust me, you die. Perfect. I see a lot of people. I see Data Professor. We have recorded an episode and we release this in a couple of weeks. He's really amazing. Don't lose this because it's really great. He's done almost 100,000 of subscribers on YouTube in 2 years. Being an associate professor at the university. So this is really amazing. Thank you. We have a lot of other questions. Perfect. I have this one. hard sometimes to manage learning and networking and other stuff all together. For example, family, sleep, eat, and I don't know, something that you don't even know what will happen in your life. How to protect us from burnout? This is another question, and I think that I know that you are not a developer, but I know a lot of friends, developers, who suffer from these things. So I think it's related to wanting to do too much without relaxing, and then after a while you just say no. Now I need a total break. So what can you say to them?
Well, I think there's a lot of similarities between like coders, people who are ADHD, people who spend a lot of time developing any content, because to be a really good coder, you have to be able to hyper focus. And that hyper focus is extremely draining on your mind. Like it's, you could put on a 6-hour day, which is the equivalent to somebody's physical 10-hour day. So be kind to yourself. So when you're hyper focusing and you're in there, it's very intense on your mind and it's very draining. And that could potentially why you suffer from burnout a little more. And then because of the online environment, you're adding more because you're online conversing with people. So you're in hyper focus, almost you're too much. So one, I think you need to really balance it with completely, and not just unplugged. I'm not so worried about that, but like completely away from a computer or a hyper focus. Be conscious of your hyper focus. Now that I said it to you, many of you go like, that's right, I do hyper focus. Like you are just like zoned in. You're like Star Wars, hyper, you've gone down the warp speed and you are in that universe. And then, when life comes, it's like someone has to pull your ship way back out, and it's hard. And so you need to take time to completely get away from that. And that's why, like Francesco, he walks every morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning in Rome in the dark because it's quiet. He doesn't have a lot of noise. He's letting his mind completely rest. Now, not all of you can do that, but try to take quiet time. So something that I do, and I love music, but I hardly listen to music anymore. If I go for a walk, I don't listen to music. If I go for a walk, I don't usually listen to a podcast. And I'm a super learner. So you have no idea how hard it is for like anytime I'm still, I need to be shoving information in my mind. So I know so much, but it's not good for you. So I will go on a walk with no earplugs in and I will listen to the birds. I will consciously try to listen to the crickets or the water or the wind. I will try to focus on the outer and not the inner. You probably do that too. And so no music. I generally, if I'm in a car, I generally don't put any music on or any noise. I don't want anyone to think for me, because what happens with music is people are thinking for you and they're moving your brain. So it's still not resting. And sometimes they're emotional songs or they'll bring back memories. So that's not resting. So quiet is important and nature is important. Now, I live close to the Rocky Mountains, so I will try to get out there as much as possible. Try to go where it's quiet, fairly quiet if you can. Some of you live in countries where it's lots and lots of people and lots of noise, so it's not always great. Easy for you. But if you go out in the really early hours, it's, obviously in a safe neighborhood, that's what I would do. You need to build in times of outside as much as possible. So that's number one for burnout. Number two, I would say pick 5 people. Pick 5 people that you could see yourself with in 5 years, and you won't be. Maybe you have one of them, and invest in those relationships. Don't go in all of them all over the place. So, and think very carefully about who these people are and how they're going to influence you. And then that will help you too. Now you can add people in and out. The other thing I do for burnout is, this is a time management trick. Okay. My mom's probably watching this and she knows I do this, but okay, I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's important. My mom sometimes likes to talk about her neighbors, and it can be a conversation, and I don't always have time for that. So I will call my mom on the way to a meeting, and because I have 20-25 minutes, and it's a great conversation. It's right away we're talking. I feel like it's a real connection, but it's a timed connection. And so now that I said I talk in the quiet, now I don't phone her all the time, every time I'm in the car, but on occasion I will phone her and I've got 20 minutes, and that's a time management thing I do. So I'll stay connected to her, but I need to be connected because it fills me, it fills her, but then I keep it into a constraint. Because if I call her at home, it could be an hour conversation, and then I will actually get burnt out because I've got a lot of other things to do. So, I mean, that's a whole conversation in itself. I did get burnt out, and so I know what it's like to get burnt out. And so if you feel it, listen to your body and rest. So just take a
Yeah.
rest.
Yeah, Samantha, this wasn't even planned as a question, but I think this is one of the best answers that I ever had. So basically, this is also sometimes I say something like that, maybe not so well, but basically that sometimes less is more. So the less you do, the best feeling in my life is when I remove something that I want to learn, or some relations that maybe are not good for me. So yeah, I think this is, and also the thing that also you should rest, because for example, I come from the sport world. So if you run, for example, after 1 hour you'll feel exhausted, and and you stop anyway. You can't run for 10 hours if you're not something very strange. With mental activities, it's different. You can stay active for 20 hours, but at the end of the day, you feel almost dead. So this is the difference. So you need to understand, and you need to know yourself, and you need to stop at some point. I wasn't that good in the past. Now I'm way better at doing this. In the past, I was just like staying up all night long, and then I'll see tomorrow. Now, when I see that it's getting late, and I see that I stop getting productive, I close everything and I go to bed. And the day after, I wake up, and everything was better.
So you
Yeah,
know how I know that is like
perfect.
doing taxes, it's a hyper focus as well. I would spend many hours working on numbers, and I have to hold a lot. It's not like I probably would be actually a really good coder because I can hold all these pieces and then move them around. So I do
Yeah,
that with taxes. People would bring in all of these different elements of their life, and then I have to make sense of them, put them into a story that matters, and then explain it back to them. And so, but I'm responsible for their livelihoods. I mean, honestly, if the minimal amount of tax is all people want to pay, and that's all they can afford. It can be literally the difference between that they feed their kids or not. And so, and there's a lot of tax law and a lot of rules and all these numbers. And so, yeah, I had to hyper focus too. So, the interesting thing is I live on a farm. We don't have a lot of animals, but that's another thing is physical activity. Like, this is going to sound crazy, but I find weeding very therapeutic. It's just quiet, I'm just moving or doing yard work. So just shifting to a physical activity is really important. And so that's another way to keep out burnout. Now you're going to say to yourself, but I'm working, I'm doing something, but it's a shift. And if you feel productive, like for me, I need to feel productive. And so for me, just sitting and just weeding the garden will be very, very helpful. And it's a time for me to process, time for me to decompress. I do it in the quiet. I don't listen to my music. And I will tell you that I could do 12 hours in the garden and not be as tired as I was when I was doing taxes for 8 or 10 hours. Like that brain draw is huge.
yeah,
And
and
that's why,
also,
like, people complain about the payment. They're like, you get paid X amount of dollars. Well, first, my education to go into it is astronomical. And second of all, I need to be 100% on my game, and I can't do much else after. And that's the same with coders too, right? Like, people are like, why do you charge so much? Well, pretty much you're brain dead after. It's pretty hard to put in an 8-hour day like somebody else and expect to, talk to your kids or your family or anything like that. You need time for your brain to kind of shift and recharge, and that's really important.
yeah, and people really love you, Samantha. I think
I
that's
want
so
to I want
good.
to show you something, Francesco. So I wore this today for you. This is from when I was in Italy. It's a Roman coin.
Oh, wow. Yeah, maybe I can see this. Maybe you should put
No, I
something
got it from the island of
in.
Capri.
Mhm.
And yeah, anyway, my husband and I, we went there for my 10-year anniversary. And so I knew we
Nice.
were talking today, and I wanted to bring a little, I wanted to bring a little Italy with me. So I'm wearing my coin that
Perfect.
I got from Italy.
Thank you. I really appreciate this, Samantha. Yeah, this is great. And by the way, please check the links below. Samantha has a great newsletter. Follow her on Twitter, please. For example, I say this: 99% of the people that I follow are developers, but Samantha is really an exception because she can really help you, even if she doesn't tweet about coding. I don't know. I'm not sure, but she can really be that person that, as a developer, can really help you in networking, in connection, communication. So follow her, especially on the Twitter space. When you see a Twitter space and you see that a yellow circle with the Samantha face, jump into it, and you'll never regret that.
Oh, you're so
Uh,
sweet. So Francesco, I have an idea. I want to ask you something.
yeah,
Okay. All right. When can you tell us a story about a time when when a networking magic happened and you were like pinching yourself and you're just like, I can't believe this is happening to me?
what do you mean about one story that happened to me in the
Yeah, like
past?
a story where you met someone or they introduced you to someone and it turned out to be something really amazing and you're just
I
like, I love my life. How did this happen?
I have one, and for example, it has been like I had this idea to become. Do you hear some noises? Some dog barking?
Yeah, but that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Let me close the window. Say something in the meanwhile. Sorry.
All right. I'll take this opportunity to thank everyone for coming today. Some of you just popped on the line, and if you did, would love for you to go in the chat and say where you're from. We've got people from all over the world: Africa, Italy, India,
I'm back.
yes, United States, Canada. I'm from Alberta, Canada, and if anyone wants to know where Alberta is, it's right above Montana. So that would help you with some geography. I'm on on the west end of Canada.
Yeah, Thailand. Yeah, Thailand and Cuba. Yeah, I can say that.
Nice.
Yeah, basically, when I quit my job, I had this goal. Let's say goal. Like in 5 years, I'd like to become one of the 30 Docker captains in the world. So I had this crazy. This was like a crazy goal because I like to put like crazy goals.
Right.
2 months later, I got. I still remember that because I was about to go to bed. It was like 10 p.m.
Yeah.
I received this email from the head of communication team in Docker, and they said like, Francesco, would you like to become a Docker captain? And I was like shocked because they reached out to me. So I said, okay, so this was like a 5 years ago. So maybe now I need another goal. But I
Right.
said yes. So this was really shocking because I thought in my mind that I had like to focus, do a lot of stuff for years, get noticed. Instead, after 2 months, this happened. This was like, oh, I can swear on my stream, but it was really a shocking moment for me. So I remember this, and I also have many others. But this really, it was really shocking.
This reminds me of something I wish I would have done when I was younger. And first, I just want to say, any of you who are on Twitter, and if you've seen Francesco's just recent profile update, so he used to have that black and white one where he looks super serious, and now he's got this one with this amazing smile.
I got that picture. I got that picture when I became a Docker captain. It's not me in pose. It's like me doing a random picture of myself. It's not really a posed picture because I don't want that anymore. So this is also related to this moment. So I just want to say this.
Well, and that's why I brought it up, because I DM'd Francesco and I said, I saw your new profile picture, and every time I see it, I like light up with joy, like every time. And I was like, there's something about it. And he's like, oh, and then he told me the story about when he was named Docker captain and how that was in the moment. So he's happy. And so if you look at it, you're going to see, and it like, when we talk about how you can't, you know, energy is only physical, it's not. Every time I look at that photo, no word of a lie, I get joy from it because I feel your joy. So we can actually, I have some photography background, and so photography is very powerful. And so I wanted to remind you, I wanted to say something for all of you. We all struggle with confidence. We all going to have lows. I've had some really, like, honestly, shit happen in my life where I was not sure how I was, you know, how I was going to get out of it, or how things could get better. There are times I felt unconfident. Sometimes I've actually struggled. I haven't had a depression session for a long time, like probably 9 years now, but I had quite a few cycles of them. And I promise you this trick is going to help you, because you never know when that's going to happen to you. Whenever you have a moment like what Francesco just said, you know, where he was asked to be this Docker captain and he had like, it just gave him so much joy. Please keep a journal of all of those moments. So for you, Francesco, I totally recommend take that picture and then write about it in your journal, how it made you feel. Like, this was just an amazing feeling. So if we journal that, and only in that journal, that's all you put in this journal are things like that. So these moments that just really excite us, that are going to be uplifting to us. Now, it could even be something DMing you. Like sometimes people DM me and say some of the most wonderful things. Like, oh, I've been able to be part of some amazing, amazing stories, like people becoming like specialist doctors because of something I helped them with, or like it's amazing stuff. And I wish that I had just, screenshotted or whatever, and then just stuck it into a journal and placed it in a journal so that when I'm having those low moments and I'm just feeling like I'm not worth anything, or no one wants to talk to me, or I have nothing of value to offer people anymore, that I can go back and look at those notes and be like, okay, I do have value. I do have something to offer. And yeah, and it will really help. So I definitely, it's just a little, you never know when you're going to need it. So I just recommend you put that into a journal. That's my younger self talking. Hey, I should create a product just for that. On my, my website's going to be changing. I'm like in the middle of a change up right now. So I should do a journal like that, create a journal that people can do.
Perfect.
That'd be
And
fun.
I think that if you need help with your website, we are many here that we can help you.
You think?
Good. You're cooking some spaghetti, right? Don't cut them in half, please. You're absolutely right, Samantha. Yeah, of course. Samantha, I don't know. We have two choices now. We can either go on for other 3 hours, or we stop in 10 minutes and then we make another episode. Please choose one of them, because I don't want to stop you, but maybe
Okay,
you have other stuff to do.
I'm fine with staying on for 10 more minutes, and just going to give permission to any of you that we invited on today. If you've got something to get to, we in no way will feel we totally understand if you've got to get going. So feel free to jump off if you need to do that. And that's something I've learned in Twitter Spaces, because sometimes you go on for an hour and you plan an hour, but then the energy of the room just is like so good, and people are coming up and they're having questions. It's really hard to be able to just ask people questions about your pain points right now. So I'll leave a room open. I've run one, 3 hours all of a sudden, but I just know that you need to give people permission to leave. So if you're on a social audio room, it's completely fine to go in and out. It's sort of like going into it's not the same as a conference where once you sit down you can't get up. It's more of a like you can come and go, and that's completely acceptable. So same with YouTube live stream. So if any of you have any more questions for me, otherwise I'll look through. Let's see if I want to give you one.
Yeah, people are already asking for the new episode. So I need Samantha.
Tell us what you want us to talk about in the comments. So if you want us to do another episode, tell us what you want us to talk about.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see. I think that I make a poll, like if people want another episode. Maybe not tomorrow, but someday
No.
we may.
Francesco has some coders to interview.
Let's see. Just this one. If you want to answer this, and then you can maybe make a final message. Hey there, Professor. Okay, so do you have tips for energy management? This is an interesting question. I think that I've almost never seen this. I'm gonna save this video. Amazing session. Perfect. A lot of compliments.
Oh my God. You guys are so amazing. This makes it worth it. I think the reason why you're seeing that comment about the energy is because I'm high energy in an interview. And I do have a high energy, but anyone out there who is a high energy person knows that just because that's what everyone sees does not mean that that's what you are all the time. So, when I have a high energy episode, I often need to decompress, and I need to, I'll go and this seriously, sometimes I'll even Netflix binge if I really have to. If I've been in a conference for 3 days, I will go Netflix binge because it's the only thing that keeps my body still. And then I'm totally engaged in the Netflix, but it's just my way of kind of resting. So we all have different ways to do that. And if I'm not resting like that, then my brain is working. So for energy management, one, eating well is one of the most important things. Honestly, if you're eating junk, you're just going to feel like crap. So that's just the thing. So you should know that, but I'm going to say the obvious: eating well. Drinking a lot of water. I honestly think you need to drink about 2 liters of water a day. Start out with at least half a liter. Yes, I'm Canadian. I'm speaking in liters. And Francesco's European, so he's in liters too. Any of you Americans, for once, you get to do the converting. We're always the one converting. And then, so lots of water. The other thing, I think that this is really important, Hang out with people you love. Oh, okay, you guys, okay, listen up. I'm going to give you, all right, this is what, I'm
Yeah,
getting a little mad.
just for people who stayed until the end, now we are
Yeah,
gonna
till
drop
the
the
end.
bombs. We are
Okay.
gonna drop the bombs now.
What? There was none before? Okay.
Bigger bombs, bigger bombs.
This is a life tip. Okay. I learned this when I was really sick because I only had so much energy to go around. So this energy management question is really good. When I was really sick, in a wheelchair, honestly couldn't talk. I know you can't see that right now, but people really, really tired me. Like a 5-minute conversation would take me an hour to recover. I only could go to one thing a week, and I'd be really careful about my energy. If I was going to a big event, or doing something with a lot of people, like going to church or something, I had to rest for hours before, sometimes a day before, and then for the next day. Like that's how sick I was. It's sort of like being recovering from a surgery, but for years. So I really had to learn energy tricks. And so some people I noticed, so there's two elements I'm going to talk to. One, energy trick, and two, I had this problem. I'm just going to be honest. And they're related. You're not going to think they are, but they are. I had this issue where sometimes I would self-hate a lot. So I would go out in public, and then I would go after, and then I would start talking to myself. I'd be like, Samantha, I can't believe you said that. Or that was insensitive. Oh, you're on Francesco's show and you said a swear word, and are going to people think less of you. And then I just start self-hating and self-talking. And so this really bothered me about this problem. So fast forward some years, I got better. I ended up doing some consulting in Ecuador for 2 months for 30 ministries to do like evacuation relief, all kinds of amazing work in Ecuador. So I did a bunch of consulting for 2 months. This was in 2016. And when I came back from Ecuador, being gone 2 months, so totally different culture, completely Spanish, developing country. My daughter and I are pretty much the only like Caucasian people on the street, like in the mountains anyway. So I came back to Canada, and I remember that when I first started talking to people, and the reason why I'm telling you this is because, so listen up, it's because COVID is giving you this is the same thing coming out of COVID. So this thing I'm teaching you is really important because you are all dealing with this right now, and I want to teach you something that can change your life. So when I came back from Ecuador, I remember talking to this gal, and I was talking to this gal, and I always feel like I have to prove myself around her. I don't know why. She's a wonderful person. She's beautiful and generous, beautiful inside and generous. But for whatever reason, I would always self-hate after. When I left, okay, I kind of said that in the wrong order. When I left talking to her, I noticed that I was self-hating. And then I was like, wait a minute, I haven't done that for 2 months. I don't even know if I did once in 2 months of serving in Ecuador with all these diverse people from all over the country, from internationally coming in and helping out. I didn't self-hate. The only reason why I noticed that it was her specifically that I had that problem was because I had been gone for 2 months, which is like COVID. We've all been away from all of these people, from everyone in our life. And now we're reintegrating in different intervals. And maybe again, when the next wave is over, and we're starting to be around people. Watch your body. If you are really tired after being around certain people, if you are feeling very negative about yourself, if you're feeling very unhappy and depressed, that's going to attack your energy. And it's not just energy as in, I feel tired or, energetic. It's also your internal happiness, your joy. And then, so I noticed these things when I came back, and I'm noticing them again. And so so what I do is now I pay attention. I try to hang out with people that I feel more energized with after than when I started the conversation. That is good energy. So I have a friend who's working in Vietnam right now. He's from the United States. His name is Brian Toe. And we will talk late at night sometimes because we're on time zone differences. It's morning for him. And it'll be like 11 o'clock at night for me. And I always feel more energized after I talk to him than before. It's the craziest thing. So there's something about it. So here's my trick for if you have to be around people who draw from your energy. So this is what you've all been waiting for. It took me a long time to get there, but I wanted to explain why this is so important. Okay. I call it I actually had a name for it, but I can't remember. I'm going to call it the 5-minute rule. It's sort of like the 5-second rule. You know, when you drop something on the floor and you're like, 5-second rule. And what it really means is you can grab it and it's not contaminated. But I think it's because our brains haven't had time to process what could possibly be all disgustingly attached to that piece of food. So we just like quick grab it and put it in our mouth. So it's like this with people. If you can keep the interaction to under 5 minutes, it will not adjust your energy much. So I practiced this. The next time I encountered this gal that I felt a lot of negative energy about after I left, the next time I was around her, I tried it. So I ran into her and I said, hey, nice to meet you. I never ask people how they are, by the way. I always say, nice to meet you. That's a whole lesson in itself. Nice to meet you. And then she said that back. And then I said, hey, I noticed that your son is home from university and must be really nice to have him home. So I mentioned something personal that said I was paying attention because I care. And then she's like, yeah, I really love having him home. I missed him. And I'm like, that's really great. I'm happy for you. Nice to see you. And I turned away. It was all under 5 minutes. So first you smile, you say hello. Then you make a meaningful connection. The meaningful connection is important. And then you thank them and say, hey, it was nice to see you again, affirm them, and then move away. The very first time I did this, I had no negative energy. And what was really amazing is I looked across the lobby and there was a gal, a really young gal with a baby on her hip. And she looked so nervous. She was out of her mind. And I went over to her. And because I had not spent all this energy on this relationship that I was forcing, I was open to this young mom. I went over there and nice intro networking, but it wasn't really networking. It's just connecting. I don't like anywhere. We like the word connecting. And I asked her about her baby. I'm like, what's this little guy's name? And that's a good way to talk to a mom without being confrontational. And, where'd you get his shoes or something like that? And we connected and we still stayed connected. And we've had some meaningful relationship building from that. So I conserved my energy with people that it wasn't working with for whatever reason. And then I was open to a really good relationship. And that's a tip for energy regulation, I guess.
Perfect, Samantha. So I think that if we keep taking questions, this will last at least 3 hours. So thank you. So I'll stop here for the questions if you don't want to say something super fast. So Samantha, let's say something to wrap this up. I've made a poll. If people they want to see you again, for now we have 10 votes and said yes out of 10. So to make another episode. So Samantha, let's wrap it up, as I said, and then we will make another episode very soon. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Yeah, I'm honored. Wrap it up. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming here today. Lots of people that we know. We mentioned most of you at the beginning. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate your time and your connecting. And you're in support, because many of you that are on here have said some of the most wonderful things about Francesco and I on Twitter. And I promise you that it just makes my day every single time we see them, and it really lifts us. And I know Francesco too, like you'll make comments and like, I'm crying right now. And don't ever underestimate the power of encouragement to other people. You just never know when they're going to need it. And if you feel compelled, if someone's on your mind and you feel compelled to give them encouragement, reach out and do so, because that's basically the universe saying and triggering you and saying they probably need it. So, and you know what, this just comes back to you. Whatever you put out there is going to come back eventually, even if it's not right away. It might not always be the way that you want it to. It will. And that's the power of networking. Care a lot about people, invest in people, and I promise you that it will just come back and they'll invest in you too. And you just never know where it's going to go. So I love that. I love adventure and I love meeting people, which is why I travel all over the world, because every time I travel, I get to understand people a little better. We have so many things in common, doesn't matter what country, no matter what culture, age, anything. But we have differences, and those differences are very fascinating. So learning what the commonality is and learning the differences are good learning tools. I hope you all learned some really great networking tips. If you're just, like I said, I don't want to go over it over, but people are asking me and DMing me, hey, do you have more networking tips? If I do, like, you need to subscribe to the newsletter and you'll get some more networking tips later. I'm going to put something out, and I'm actually doing a note on this later.
I was getting the link in the meanwhile.
Oh, okay.
So we are a great team, Samantha. Where you were saying like the newsletter was about to just post this link. So we work well together. Yeah.
So if any of you are listening, we want to know, and I'm probably gonna use one of these networking tips. So what you do is go over to one of the DMs and DM Francesco. Well, first of all, if you're on Twitter, please tweet it out and say something that you learned, tag us, and then tag both of us, and then put it in a DM, and then say, hey, I was on your live stream, or I watched your video after, your YouTube after. This is something I learned. Thank you very much. That's really great. And that way we've got a connection. You can do that on LinkedIn, or you can do that on Twitter. And we'd love to hear from you and find out what worked for you. So
yeah, and of course.
Oh, last tip.
Go.
Okay.
This is for real fun.
Yeah. Screenshot and send that in the DM. So I do that in webinars, and I do that on breakout sessions, and when I do YouTube.
Okay, yeah. So I look fine. So I don't look like a.
And then you can screenshot that.
I always look like a serial killer in the screenshot, so I try to be at least a normal person.
So screenshot them. I do this all the time. Whenever I do YouTube, or whenever I do a show with anyone, or a seminar, or I'm on a Zoom call, I'll be like, hey, can I screenshot this? And they'll say, yeah. And then I screenshot and DM it. And it's a nice way to trigger off an emotional memory. So when we're looking down the timeline, we'll be like, oh, I remember that event. I remember talking to you. So please do it. It works. All my community rooms, Ship 30 for 30, Rome Research, Nest Labs, all of this, I'll screenshot and then DM it to you. So do that, screenshot us. We'll pose. You want to pose, Francesco?
Yeah, for sure. I'll also take one. Let's try.
I don't know.
I don't know. No, I was just checking my other side, but I'll take the best one, and I'll repost this. So
okay. Well, no, it was for everybody else to screenshot, so we know if they're paying attention.
Come on. Done. 3. Cheese. I don't know. Yeah.
How to network on virtual events. That's exactly what I was teaching you. Good catch.
You need to check the video at the end. I got to. Perfect. You did. Thank you so much. Thank you, Samantha. This has been, we are about at 100 minutes. This is I think maybe this has been my longest interview for now, I think, because the last record, it was 1 hour and a half. So you are the longest interview, but I would literally stay for hours with you, talking maybe all the evening, but we need to wrap it up, Samantha. This is the saddest moment, I think. But we can always make another one. So let's keep in touch. Let's see if I've done the
I'll have to have you on my YouTube channel, maybe. So I'm just starting out.
Would love to do this. By the way, our poll has ended. 16 as people has voted. 16 people has said yes, that they want to see us together again. So
all right.
Yeah. So I think that we have to do that. Yes, don't worry, we are all busy. So thanks again. Please check in the description. Even if she's not a developer, but she said that is a problem solver, which is a synonym of developer. So maybe she's a mixed developer, and but it's really it could be really a meaningful person for your network, for Twitter, but even just casual chat for Twitter Spaces. Samantha is really amazing. I think one of my best connections. It's not the one of the oldest old connection, but it's really meaningful. So she has given really amazing tips, and I think that one of them can really change your life. I'm not joking, because if you take the step in the right direction, and if you start working, I use this analogy because I like to work. If you go in the right direction, if you want to be more independent, if you want to have some great opportunities, you can't sit on the couch all day long. You need to do something. You need to take action, And then you'll see people will start looking at you. Let's say sometimes it says as it is, if you want to change your life, start acting good, spread positive energy, and something good will happen to your life for sure. Yeah, so we are done, Samantha, for this time. Hey, hi everybody. Yeah, 100
Thanks again,
minutes.
everyone, for joining us, and we look
Yeah.
forward to connecting with you. Thanks again, Francesco. You're amazing. And I'm so honored because really you're not getting a lot of benefit by putting me on. I don't have a bit, I'm just starting out on Twitter. I have a low following. And so when you asked me to be on, I was just like, what is he going to benefit from?
So we need to fix this problem, this bug. So we will help you. Don't worry, Samantha. Bye, Dr. Professor. Yeah.
Oh, you
we
guys
are done.
Killer tips. You're welcome so much, everyone.
Yeah. Perfect. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Perfect. We are almost done. Let's